Hi, friends. Welcome to La Fama Bleu. Thank you for tuning in. Wanted to bring you up to date on current events. Well, the school year is over. Yay! I'm so excited because it's been a tough school year actually with um, projects and assignments. Yeah, we made it through with honors, so I'm thankful for that. I'm just thanking God for another season as we start the summer. But one thing that's been really heavy on my heart is really the fact that my son has been really struggling with the fact that, and I think I mentioned this before in previous videos, that he struggles with the fact that he doesn't have a two-parent home. And I feel for him, I really do. Um, yeah, I don't know what I could do to kind of fill that gap or that hole for him, but that's where he is. And I'm praying that he understands that divorce was not the first option, but that's the option that his father picked, and that's what we went with. And even with that, I gave him plenty of time from the date that he filed to the date when we actually signed for him to kind of figure out if there was another way that we could have rectified the situation. And he didn't see another possibility, and that's a shame. But, I'm thankful for the fact that God did not keep me in a loveless and marriage. But not only that, a marriage that didn't have a sense of purpose or protection. I think as women, we want to feel protected and loved. And when we don't get those things, those are, I want to say, the core values that can hold a marriage together. And those things weren't there. I just feel that he took he made his vows, but didn't really realize what those vows were and how to um, hold on to them and make them, you know, the core of our marriage. He didn't know how to love and protect and provide. Naturally, I was always gonna want to work for myself, but he was always telling friends, yeah, my plan is for my wife to stay home and be a stay home mom. I think he literally was waiting for God to drop down from the sky and walk him through that process, what that really looked like. He never really looked for another position with, a higher income. He never really looked for ways for us to save more. I was always the frugal one, always trying to find different ways that we could save with our shopping, with our housing, and so forth. But you never saw those things as being crucial to uh, being able to have the funds that we needed to step into the next season of life. Granted, at the time we had 3 children, of course, I'm expecting all 3 kids to have their own room and have a space, have a backyard to play, and just be free like children should be. But he felt comfortable. He was comfortable with us being in a low apartment and all 5 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment, and didn't see a need to sit down and plan. Um, Whenever you would ask him for a plan, he would pull out scriptures. Yes, God does promise us certain things, but we have to put the work. We have to be able to look for that position. We have to be able to fulfill certain things in this earth in order to get the return of what we're looking for. But no, yeah, God will be the provider, but not if we're sitting still and doing nothing. We have to put in applications and go on interviews and uh, and do the basic things that are required to get a position, to get a job, to move on and progress. So anyway, those were some of the things that really led to my not wanting to um, stay in the marriage. I never did voice that, but the fact that there was no sense of intimacy or connection, he didn't see how we could bring back that intimacy and kind of revive the marriage. Um, and in previous videos, I've talked about the fact that I always initiated the couples counseling or the couples retreat. So after a while, I got tired. I really did. And I probably would have stayed in. And I probably would have never filed for divorce because I never did. But my hope and goal was for him to snap out of it at some point and realize, okay, I got to put my feet down as a man and put some work, put some action into this relationship. But he didn't. So here we are dealing with, a child who's here with me who feels as if he's less than a person because his friends have a two-parent home and they talk about the things that they do with their father on a weekend, or both parents. And he doesn't have that. He has to deal with, oh, I'm going to see my father for a few weeks during the summer. I spend the majority of the time with my mom. And I think there was a time where he was okay with that when he was younger. But now that his father has been putting in his head that it was my fault, that I left, that I didn't want the marriage. So he blames me a lot, and last night he was saying, why did you have to leave daddy? Why divorce? You're not supposed to divorce. Why did you have to leave daddy? And at the end of the day, I said nothing. I can't reason with a 9-year-old. I don't know what to tell him. Whatever I tell him, it's not going to sound true. And it's not going to make sense to him, ultimately. And so I'm just praying that God will help him to see what he needs to see as he gets older, as he matures, as he understands life for what life is, that he'll see what he needs to see. But that's where we are. This for me, it's really I feel as if internally I'm torn apart. Because when he questions these things, I don't know what to say. Of course, I'm constantly praying. These questions bring me down to my knees and for me to draw closer with my Lord. But it really hurts. It hurts that he feels that he's less of a person because he doesn't have a two-parent home. And I just wish more men would step up to the plate so that these kids don't have to feel less because they don't have a two-parent home. Because I do the best that I can for him every day, every single hour, so that he doesn't feel like he's lacking. But he's a boy, He hears things, and he feels it. And I'm so sorry that he feels it. There's nothing else that I can do. Yeah, maybe there could have been hope that his father and I could have reconciled, but he went ahead and remarried. So that reality is definitely not there, and I don't like to go back to begin with. I don't think I would have ever seen him as a potential, for me to rekindle with, because I know who he is. And I don't see how he would ever step up to the plate. And I'm thankful that God is allowing me to see that, so that I don't have any regrets, because he is who he is. He's not changing. Maybe he's changing in the sense of protecting this wife from the other two children, and that's a shame, because the wife doesn't value the other two children who live with him. She doesn't have a relationship with them. She doesn't value them. She doesn't recognize them. I mean, she'll walk into the kitchen. She sees our daughter, and she doesn't say anything to her. And yes, maybe, as teenagers, yeah, they can be very disrespectful. I get that. But you stepped into the relationship and you knew what you were stepping into. So if you're going to call yourself a Christian, then you should exercise some Christian values, some Christian characteristics, to show the kids who you are. Whether they accept her or not, that's a whole different story. But, step up to the plate. Make a meal and, invite them to the table. Treat them as children, treat them as family, because that's who they are. You don't step into a marriage, just to get you a citizenship papers, because ultimately, from what I understand, that's what it is, but be thankful that you found someone who was willing to marry you, to give you your papers, and not allow ICE to find you. Because had he not been single, you would have never found him. I mean, who would you have found to marry just for, to get yourself legalized in the country? So I don't like the fact that she can. I know sometimes I really wish I could have a conversation with her, woman to woman. Why would you step into a relationship? You accepted the man with 2 children, but yet you rejected the children. So at least that's what I'm hearing from my daughter, that this woman does not say anything to her, doesn't acknowledge her. And I know my daughter has her own issues, and she doesn't acknowledge this woman probably at times as well. But, as an adult, I'm not going to step down to a child's level. I'm going to step up. So I'm praying that this woman will, at some point, treat these kids as family. Yeah. And I know for those of you who are watching this video right now thinking, oh, well, why did you leave those 2 kids? Because of legal rights, because of where the kids were at the time, and the 2 oldest are adopted. If you need some background information to kind of understand this video, they are adopted. One is 16, one is 15, and because I had not been in the home at the time when this man filed, the court decided that it was best to keep the children where they were, with their father, and not move them out of the school district, not move them out of their the environment that they're familiar with. Really, it wasn't the best decision, but that's what happens when you go to court. Unfortunately, they don't always make the best decision. They make a decision that sounds ideal, but in reality, it's not always ideal. All right. So I'll keep you guys posted. In 2 weeks, my son will be visiting with his father, And so my prayer is that he'll have a wonderful time, really, and that he'll have a good experience. And this stepwoman will treat my child well, and that's all I can pray for. That God will protect him and surround him with his angels who will encamp around him and keep him safe. Because ultimately, that's the best thing that I can pray for, that my child will be safe at all times. So thank you for tuning in. And again, this is La Femme Bleu. I thank you for listening to my stories. They might not be the most glorious stories, but thank you. I appreciate you. And leave a comment if you have a favorable comment to share or similar stories. I'm sure I'm not the only one out there with stories of an ex who's not doing the best for his children, or an ex who's not really amicable. Because I feel as if everything that I need to share with him has to be in writing. I can't pick up the phone to call him and talk with him. All right, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, friends.